What's up, everybody? So we have another Nomad Sculpt Basic video for you today. A lot of you guys have been asking me what is the difference between voxel remeshing and global remeshing. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. So let's open up Nomad and get started. Alright guys, so we are here in another Nomad Sculpt Basic video. Like I said, this is going to be about voxel remeshing and global remeshing. There's two different remeshing systems inside of a Nomad Sculpt. And so let's go over it. Right now we have in front of us voxel remeshing recomputes a new topology with uniform density. So basically what that's doing is it's recalculating a certain resolution of geometry onto your model that is uniform across the entire model. That is good for one, not having crazy densities all over the place, and it kind of can speed up your workflow or your iPad a little bit better. It's not as intense. So like if you were using dynamic topology and you noticed that things were slowing down, but you had enough detail that was able to retain by voxel remeshing, then you can continue either subdividing or remeshing again with even dispersed topology, still holding the shapes that you have. Voxel remeshing in Nomad Sculpt doesn't always work the greatest, because if you go to the highest setting, it might not be enough to retain the detail that you sculpted in, be it you use subdivisions or whatnot. But from there, it says, when using voxel remesh, the entire mesh will force the topology to have a uniform resolution, meaning all of the polygons have more or less the same size, just like I said earlier. This is very useful when you do not want to think about topology and simply do freeform sculpting. This is my favorite personal way of sculpting, but others like dynamic topology and some other ways. But this just, to me, optimizes performance the best, but there is its limitations in Nomad Sculpt. A typical sculpting workflow you can start by using one voxel remeshing to block out rough shapes with a low resolution. Simply hit the remeshing button once in a while when you are stretching the mesh too much to avoid too much distortion. And that's why I use it. I mean, it's similar to Z remesher. Actually, not Z remesher. Anyways, this was a similar workflow that I use in ZBrush and as well in Blender with the voxel remeshing in Blender. Oh, also one point I want to say, when you voxel remesh, if you have any holes or cuts, leaving any empty space open on your model, man, I am nasally today. Open on your model, it will seal those holes shut. Now we come down to global. You can remesh the whole mesh by using the same algorithm. Usually you should prefer the voxel remesh, which I agree. However, one advantage to voxels over the voxels is that the masked area will be protected, so you can have better control on where more or less density is going to be. So this is awesome for, like I said, if you are trying to optimize your mesh to where maybe something that isn't gonna, a large portion isn't gonna need a lot of detail, but then you're gonna need a high density of detail in one section. You can use masking to update your resolution in certain areas that you want it to work on. There is 3 different functions, and you'll see it on the screen in a moment. I'll be going through each one and what it looks like. But yeah, you have uniformization, which it can add and remove faces. This is the mode to use in the video above, which the video he's talking about is on the manual page, which I will make sure to link in the description below. And then there's a subdivision, which adds new faces only. It cannot remove faces. And then you have decimation. So say you have a 3D printed or a 3D model that you want 3D printed, and your printer can't handle a certain amount of geometry, which most printers shouldn't have too much trouble going over a little bit of a million faces. Older printers, they have limitations to about 1 million faces per object. So if you have something that you sculpt in Nomad and you want to send it to the 3D printer, for my use case and for the way I work for 3D printing, decimation is always something I do prior exporting. So you may want to use this, and it removes faces, but it tries to retain details where they're at as best as it can. So I want to give you guys a visual example instead of just running down through everything that I had just said in there. But you can see here I'm turning up the resolution, and I have my wireframe on for voxel remeshing, just so you can see how it affects the poly count and the wireframe. So you see I just made it a lot more dense inside of the face compared to where it was. It retained all the shapes, but it evenly dispersed the geometry the way the algorithm does. There's some weird loops and stuff in here, but as far as keeping everything mostly quads and evenly distributed, voxel remeshing is great for doing that. And I'll run it again right now so you can see it close up. And there's the new resolution. So I can sculpt a lot more detail now in here. But at a certain point, it might start bogging down my iPad. But like I said, Nomad Sculpt is surprisingly well with how high you can go as far as geometry count goes for each piece. But yeah, that would be voxel remeshing. I'm going to show you guys right here that, yeah, you cannot use the mask. It automatically will voxel remesh everything, and the mask area will be affected. It will not retain whatever geometry that is right there. And then in a second, I am going to cut open the bottom of the neck, and you guys will see that, yeah, it does close off that area once you run voxel remeshing. Now we are going to test out global remeshing. As you can see, global remeshing does not affect the empty space. It allows you to remesh the whole model, and it does not close holes off if you need that for some reason. But as you can tell, it doesn't give as even of a geometry dispersion. It does look very kind of just nasty, in my opinion. It's kind of like nightmares to a 3D artist. So I'm kind of going through all the different versions of remeshing. Now I'm going to show the different using mask, or using a masked area. I'm going to show that how the global remeshed doesn't affect those areas like the voxel remesh does. Now if I unmask, you can see the lips were not affected. So there's prior, or there's before, and here's after. And if I unmask, you'll see that the geometry is still the same, while everything else is a lot more dense. Here we're gonna just distort the model a little bit and kind of see the difference between the global remeshing, how it affects a distorted geo. And this is why I prefer voxel remeshing in a situation like this. As you can tell, yeah, the geometry is way condensed and very weird looking. I wouldn't feel comfortable sculpting on that. here we're using the decimation just to check it out and see how it does. As you can tell, it has lowered the geometry count drastically, from I think it was like 600,000 to 174,000, while retaining all the shapes that you have currently on your model. And that's why I say, if you're going to 3D print something, do this last, so then you can retain all your detail as much as possible at the end. Don't decimate prior being done. But that's pretty much it, guys. I just want to make a quick video. I know some of you have been asking me about the difference between voxel remeshing and global remeshing. So if this video helps, leave it a thumbs up. And if you have any more questions, or if you want me to go in depth on any of this stuff and talk about it a little bit more, I'd be more than happy to do so. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day, wonderful night, wonderful weekend, whenever, wherever you're at. And again, thank you for the support. I love you guys. Peace.